We are going to start the presentation tonight with a short video.
So easy to be angry right now, and I don't want to put down people that are angry. Anger has a purpose, but if we let it stay for too long, if we don't move through it and learn what we need to, we can easily lead really depressing, unsatisfying lives. I think that what you have to do with anger, remember that anger is always a secondary emotion. There's always something underneath that anger. And so getting to the root of what it is and processing that. It's okay to have negative emotions like anger, but you don't deserve to live a life angry. That's not a happy, satisfactory life for me or you. And so if you can learn to then move forward and look at things in high definition thinking, looking at other people and seeing that they come from really complicated circumstances, and that whether you believe it right now or not, they do have strengths that each of us can learn from. That doesn't mean we allow toxic people close in our inner circle. Absolutely not. But we can still see people as the powerful beings they can be. If we can stop seeing people in black and white and trying to label them and put them and their experiences in neat little boxes that make sense in our brains, we can focus more on creating relationships, on nurturing relationships, and living a happier life, and life where we're able to see people more easily, because you can't really see someone if you're not willing to get up close and personal, if you're not willing to see where they came from that helped them come to the conclusion they have. And once again, it's so easy to hate people when we're far away from them. It's so easy. But it's so much harder to hate someone when you get close up to their circumstances and when you see where they're coming from. Then you connect with them, then you feel that compassion for them. But that's more complicated. I think that's why a lot of us feel safe in our black and white thinking, because we can stay away from uncomfortable feelings and uncomfortable situations that make us think and make us have to adjust what we believe and know. But I think that that's living in reality, and it's a happier life because you don't have to be scared to look around, right? You can recognize that people can be wrong about one thing and right about another, and you can just gather truth from all sorts of people. You don't have to avoid it, because once again, the more we know, the closer we get to truth, not the less we know. Hi, my name is Julie Lee, and I am the author of I See You: How Compassion and Connection Save Lives, and it is currently available at cedarfork.com.
Thank you all for coming tonight, for sharing this evening with me. My name is Julie Lee. As I said, I am the author of a new book that was just released, I See You: How Compassion and Connection Save Lives. And I also started a podcast 2 years ago called I See You, where I advocate the same. I'm also a wife and a mother of 2 kids that I love that are strangely obsessed with the Grinch. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. So I made the mistake of showing my 2-year-old, well, he was 2 years old then, my son Sam, a clip of the Jim Carrey version of The Grinch. And that was a mistake because it terrified him. But I've always loved the story of The Grinch, and I was so excited for my kids to love it just as much as me. So there's these 3 different versions, right? We have the oldest version, the Dr. Seuss version, and then we come to the Jim Carrey version, and then the newest one, which has kind of more of a hip-hop feel. Anyone out there, do you guys like The Grinch? Raise your hand. Anyone? Yeah? Oh, yeah. Some fans of The Grinch out there? Okay. 2 back there, I see that. I want to talk a little bit about the backstory of The Grinch. So this bottom and top version, they don't give us as much of a backstory, but the middle one, the one with Jim Carrey, the real life acting one, they talk about and they show you what happened to the Grinch as a kid that made him leave Whoville in the first place, that made him go up to his cave on the hill. And there were people that were mean to him. There were Whos that were mean to him. They made fun of him because of the way he looked. He was just this green, hairy misfit. And people were really cruel to him. Kids were cruel to him. And so he left Whoville and with his cute little lisp. I remember he says, "I hate Christmas. I hate it." And he goes up and he makes this home in a cave. So I really see it as part of a way of self-protection for the Grinch. I think we sometimes make this same mistake. I think sometimes we are afraid of getting our feelings hurt, or we're afraid of making a situation worse, afraid that we're not adequate to engage with other people, and we hole ourselves up on a mountain in different situations. But the Grinch comes back, right? If you know the story, he goes through some different challenges. He gets so sick of the Who's. They are obsessed with Christmas. He tries to steal their Christmas. But in the end, he does go back to Whoville, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. He decides to go back because he knows that he belongs in Whoville. He's his best self in Whoville. He chooses to engage with other people, and that's what I really want to advocate for tonight, is that that's where we all belong, is we belong in our communities, engaging with other people. I want you to choose Whoville. That's what I want tonight to come from my presentation, is that you choose to become a more active part of your community. So let's take a step back, and we're going to review some history from television. Raise your hand. Does anyone recognize any of these shows? Yeah, what do you recognize? Call it out.
Boy Meets World.
Boy Meets World.
Avatar.
Avatar. Anyone?
Brady Bunch.
Brady Bunch, yes. So when we first came out with black and white television, I wasn't alive, but I hear it was a big deal. It was so exciting that we could watch moving picture. And it wasn't like when people were watching in black and white, they were missing color television because they didn't know any different. And so black and white was exciting, it was great, it worked for people. Well, a little bit later, we came up with something different. We came up with color television. Technology advanced, and that was huge. We got to watch fun shows like Boy Meets World in full color. You give it a few decades, and our minds were blown at how real we could make movies and shows look. Movies like Avatar with their vibrant colors. We came to high definition television, and that was exciting. I want to talk about this spectrum from black and white to high definition, and I want to talk about the way that we think. Black and white thinking, I look at as thinking in absolutes. People are good or they're bad. They're not complicated. We can put them, like I talked about in that video, we can put them with labels in neat boxes. But when we start feeling compassion for them, we start seeing them in color. We start being able to recognize maybe what brought them to this situation in the first place. And then there's an even more elevated way of thinking, and I call that high definition thinking. High definition thinking is when we're not only able to just have compassion for them, but we can see what good they bring to the world because of their experiences. We connect with them, we relate with them. Going back to our story of the green misfit, the Grinch, in the beginning of the story, the Grinch, he absolutely thinks in absolutes, right? He doesn't like the Who's, he thinks they're bad, he thinks they're annoying, and so what does he choose to do with that? He steals Christmas. But as the story goes on, after he tries to steal Christmas, he hears them singing. Up from his cave, he can hear them singing, despite the fact that he's stolen all of their presents, their decorations, their food. He hears them singing together, unifying together. And he has that compassion. Not only does he bring back all of the Christmas goodies, he joins the feast. He connects with them, he relates with them, and he has that higher definition thinking with Whoville, and he decides that he is going to engage with Whoville. I want to tell you a quick story of a girl who was 14 years old. Probably my very favorite job, maybe besides teaching second grade, was working at a snow shack, because I could eat as many snow cones as I wanted. I could blast my music, read my books, and I could people watch, which I've always loved to do. I love people. I love watching people. Well, one day a girl, she walked up to the snow shack and I recognized her. She'd lived across the street from me. I was in junior high, and this girl, she didn't run with the best crowd, in my opinion, and she dropped out when she became pregnant. And she waddled up with her belly, about 15 years old maybe. And I hadn't seen her in a while because she hadn't been to school. And this girl, I tell you what, I didn't feel a lot of compassion for her. I saw her as bad. I saw her as someone to avoid, and certainly not someone that could that I could learn anything from because of the life choices she'd made that I disagreed with. I had a choice to make how I was going to see her. But I want to tell you what happened when she walked up to the snow cone shack and she asked to get a snow cone. I had this immediate feeling of love for her. I felt compassion for her. Because as we know, it's really easy to hate someone when we're far away from them. Real easy to think about them in black and white. But when we get closer to someone, when we look at them eye to eye, they become a human being again, and we begin to see them in color. Let me get a drink quick. So this girl, when I first saw her, I was thinking in black and white. I was thinking, oh, she's bad. I don't even want to see her. She has nothing to offer me. It's kind of a selfish way to live, right? I think most of us were a little selfish at 15. And then she steps up, and I start feeling some compassion for her, and I start asking myself questions like, I wonder if she doesn't have a ton of love at home. I wonder if she went looking for love in the wrong places. She wanted acceptance. I wonder if she doesn't have a lot of good role models who care about her. And I started feeling that compassion and love for her. To take it a step further, I began to connect with her. I started talking to her about some of the same teachers we'd had, about things we had in common. And she had a lot to say. And you know what I realized is this girl, she probably knew a thing or two about what it feels like to feel left out, to feel abandoned, to feel different. And there's probably some things I could learn from her. Now, I've passed out a piece of paper and a pen to you. And at this point in the program, I would like you to take your paper and I want you to write the words, "you are." And I'm going to have you write a word of your choice. This is a mantra I want you to think of. I want you to think of a hard day you've had during COVID. And I want you to think about what someone could have said to you to make you feel better. So it could be anything from you are going to be okay, you are safe, that's mine. You are safe, you are important, you are special, whatever you want. I want you to write out what statement someone could have said to you that would have made you feel better. And I want you to go ahead and pass them over up to this chair up here and I can grab them from you. We got some long ones. You guys are so much more obedient than second graders, I just have to say, and my own children, who are being pretty obedient right now. I'm lucky I have a 5 and 4-year-old listening. They're even being obedient. Good job, guys. Will you just set those papers up here for me? It's hard to believe that it's been 20 years since this tragic day, September 11th, 2001. I remember where I was. Do you remember where you were? I remember I was in a blue van with my mom, who's here tonight. And I remember we were late to school, and she was dropping me off at the middle school. And I remember she was turning the knob and listening to the radio, and she just started saying, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh." And I remember just being annoyed because I was like, "Mom, I got to get to school. Like, stop talking about whatever you're talking about. I got to go. I'm late." And I just hopped out of our blue Dodge Ram van and I ran through the middle school. And I had to get through the main building to get all the way to my English class in the portables in sixth grade English. And I walked in and there was the news. We didn't watch TV in school, but the news was on. And I just saw all this smoke and everybody's eyes glued at the TV. And I quietly sat down. And I remember a boy. I really specifically remember this boy next to me, who sat next to me. He kind of liked to mouth off to the teacher, and I remember him saying, "Whoa, cool, explosions." And it was the only time I ever heard my teacher yell. And she said, "This is not funny. You stop saying what you're saying right now." And I took that seriously. I knew something was wrong. As an adult, obviously, I have a much different understanding of what was going on that day. Something really, really beautiful came from this crisis. I remember watching the news with my brother that night, alone in our basement, and I remember him saying, I think this is World War III. Maybe I'm going to go to war. And we watched these images of people, all different races, genders, certainly religion, praying and holding each other, raising American flags, donating sums of money, offering their homes to help people in need. I think New York City and all of America was a very sacred time for them. I had the opportunity to go with my husband to the 9/11 Memorial Museum last year. It's a special but tough place to be. We could have been there all day. But I bought a picture of an exhibit that meant something really special to me. In the exhibit, they're about the size of a Post-it note. You see all these different shades of blue. And each of those shades of blue is to symbolize one person that was taken from this earth on September 11th. And the quote on it says, "No day shall erase you from the memory of time." There was unity in this crisis. I want you to think about now, as we are going through, I think, multiple crises at once in our country. We're in a global pandemic. We're losing people every day. We have a very divided political system right now. Some people believe masks work, some don't. And I don't know about you, but what I see more than anything is division. I don't see the same kind of unity, but I believe it's possible. I believe that we are much more similar than we think. And I think sometimes it takes things like this for us to realize that. It doesn't matter what God you pray to. It doesn't matter your sexual orientation even. What matters is that we remember that we are all human beings. We remember our humanity. We think in high definition thinking, and we look at people anxious to gather the light they have to give. I want to look at some of these papers, and I want to know what it is that you need to hear, and see if maybe I'm not so different than you than I think. This one says, "You are cool." I like to know that I'm cool. "You are going to get through it." "You are fine." "You are enough." I want you to know I've done this activity with large groups of people, all different types of people, teenagers, adults, and these are the same kind of messages I hear every single time. You're enough. You are going to be okay. You are going to get through this. I think that gives us a really good idea of what the people around us are needing to hear right now. Amidst all this crisis, we have our own crisis going on in our family. This is a picture of my sister Amy laying on my lap during a recent girls' trip we just had. And Amy's always been a really compassionate person, but as she is dying from terminal breast cancer right now, she's taught me some especially profound lessons that I think are applicable to all of us right now. And that is the idea of no hard feelings. I'm going to read to you a social media post I recently posted about my experience watching Amy gracefully move through this pandemic and through the end of her life. Some moments stop you in your tracks. I had one of these moments this past weekend as Amy took a nap on my lap and I rubbed her cute G.I. Jane head. She's getting more tired these days. She recently introduced me to the song No Hard Feelings by the Avett Brothers. Here are some of my favorite lyrics. When my body won't hold me anymore and it finally lets me free, will I be ready? When my feet won't walk another mile and my lips give their last kiss goodbye, will my hands be steady? When I lay down my fears, my hopes and my doubts, the rings on my fingers and the keys to my house, with no hard feelings. When she was first diagnosed with her first round of cancer, someone told her, Just so you know, cancer will change you, but you get to choose if it makes you hard or it makes you softer. As I contemplate my angel sister leaving this world, I am amazed at how she has become softer, not harder through this. She is compassion. May we all take after her example as we experience our daily challenges. Let 2020 make us softer instead of harder. I'm grateful you're here tonight, and I'm grateful because this is what I believe that our world needs right now. I believe that we need to shift our way of thinking of each other. We need to see the good in each other. And now more than ever, we need to live with no hard feelings, but to unify as a community. Thank you. If you do want to know more about my mission, I have a lot of the information up here. Like I said, I did recently publish a book called ICU, and there's a bracelet that comes along with it. There's a special story about how that came to be. I also have my podcast that I love, ICU, and you can find my website, all my social media handles, and my contact info here. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and thanks for being here online too.